Levy, like a fine wine gets better with age. Kind of. Andy, before you start, would you mind just standing up for a second? I just want everyone to see Andy's belt. Could you just show the belt? And can you show everybody your socks? See his belt and socks? Someone asked me this earlier, who saw your stuff. Do those come in heterosexual?
Give him the victory.
Well, don't you want to hear what he does all day? Andy Treadwell is the director of the Legislative and Executive Communications at the barely accredited Indian River State College in Fort Pierce. Part lobbyist, part speechwriter for the president of the Indian River State College in Fort Pierce. The president of that place doesn't even want business cards. I won't be here long. Between jobs, insurance, need insurance for the kids. Now, but Andy and his wife Katie are approaching their 10-year anniversary this January. They have 2 children, Lachlan, who's 5, Harper, who's 3. They've already been indoctrinated into the ways of orange and blue, which means they've each already been arrested twice, and Lachlan has 3 DUIs. Let's give it up for Andy Treadwell.
Thanks, Steve. Let's give it up for our MC this evening. All right, let's keep it going. Yeah, we'll believe your Ashley Madison account may have been for research purposes, but we know your FarmersOnly.com account was legit. God damn, I love following you, David Levy. Well, it's good to be up here for the 5th time as the coach of the Florida Gators. I'm one of the very few who actually returned this season. In fact, let's take this time to please have a moment of silence to respect the Will Muschamp era. Thank you. That was the appropriate time. 11 wins over 2 seasons has been hard to tolerate. Seriously, as a fan base, we're more deflated than Tom Brady's balls. But life is about perspective, so it could always be worse. Take Miami, for example, whose fans are more deflated than one of Bruce Jenner's balls. I'm sorry, that was wrong. I meant Caitlin's balls. First, let me congratulate the Palm Beach Garden Kiwanians on 25 years of successful roasts. It's hard to believe that when you started, FAU football wasn't even a glint in Howard Schnellenberger's eye. Emerson tells that joke, it would have involved balls. FAU, a team so bad, UAB still has you penciled in for a win this season. Florida Atlantic is... hit you, all right. Florida Atlantic is also celebrating a milestone this year, 15 years as a program. It's pretty impressive. 10 years less than the roast, and they almost draw as many people. When the NCAA released their attendance figures for 2014, FAU had the 8th worst attendance average, only filling its stadium to about 48% of its capacity. Even the FAU optimist is like, yeah guys, it's half empty. One thing that will boost attendance is bringing in Cold War era 1980s college football superpower Miami. Let's just go ahead and dub this game the Maybe We Can Fill All the Seats Together Bowl. Now, one thing I did notice about FAU is that your backup quarterback is Jason Driscoll. Interesting choice. As a Florida fan, let me offer up a little public service announcement. We drove the Jeff model for a while and can tell you it does not end well. It rarely got out of neutral, stalled often in drive, and had an unusual amount of dummy lights always going off. The University of Central Florida voted Orlando's 8th best theme park. Now, early in the summer, decade-long UCF athletic director Todd Stansberry left to head to Oregon State. That's an understandable move, though. What man in this room hasn't traded in a few nights simply because the Beavers called? director to that famous resume of his, along with Calypso enthusiast, president of Micronesia, and adult film star named Sunburned Silverfox. Now, thanks for this picture, Emerson. It's a great shot, but I gotta know, when you capture the king of leprechauns, do you get to keep the pot of gold, or is that just an old wives' tale? Now, UCF Stadium, called, and I'm very serious here, the Bounce House, is introducing a new look this fall. A giant beach area inside the stadium, which has since been dubbed the Carl Black and Gold Cabana. Come on now, really? First, that sounds like a shitty gentleman's club near the airport. Second, you finally established some football legitimacy, and you built a goddamn giant sandbox in your stadium. I'm gonna launch a Kickstarter campaign tonight to make the Medieval Times cast joust there at halftime. Now, my favorite off-season UCF news is the announcement that UConn, and I repeat, UConn, has declared a rivalry with Central Florida. The best part, UCF didn't know about it, nor do they give a damn. What makes this all even greater is the name. They dubbed their one-sided rivalry with UCF the Civil Conflict. Seriously, the Civil Conflict. This sounds like a courteous encounter between members of parliament. Literally, courteous encounter is synonymous with civil conflict. That trophy is something James Harrison would make his kids give back. So mark your calendars now, folks. October 10th in Orlando, it's about to get civil. Miami. College football's shifty cone of uncertainty. Now, it's nice to have Miami Roast Coach back for once, but after that set, I still can't picture you in a courtroom, Chuck. I'm starting to imagine it's something close to if Lou Ferrigno starred in Law and Order. Gung gung. Hulk motion to approach bench and smash. Here's your fun fact of the evening. Miami last peaked in 2001. So did Nickelback. Feel free to make your own joke up. I'll wait. Now, Miami just ended their merchandise contract with Nike and moved on over to Adidas. Because I guess Ed Hardy wouldn't launch a football line. Now, by the look of these Adidas promos, your uniforms will have plenty of that Michael Irvin shirt pattern zazz appeal. And you may have new uniforms, but you've still got the same 14-karat plated Al Golden. And that... Bring that guy back next year. At 28-22, Al Golden has the exact same four-season record as guess who? That's right, UF's new linebackers coach. Now, one high point for Miami is quarterback Brad Kaya. Saw this one article arguing that Miami finally has a better starting QB than both UF and FSU for the first time in a decade. Which is a really amazing revelation, considering that list of starting UF and FSU QBs includes Chris Ricks, Wyatt Sexton, Xavier Lee, Drew Weatherford, Johnny Brantley, Jacoby Brissett, Jeff Driscoll, Tyler Murphy, Trayan Harris, and something called the Skylar Morningway, which was either a Florida signal caller or a toxin anti-vaxxer, suppose. I don't know. Finally, when the Cincinnati Bearcats came to town last October, Miami's attendance hit rock bottom, and then they found a way to jackhammer right on through. For the low price of 88 cents, you could attend a Hurricanes football game. That's literally less than a quarter. Miami Hurricane football. You're cheaper than everything at the Dollar General. Florida State. Florida State. A team that's in the news for all the right reasons if you're in charge of roasting Florida State at a college football game. Now, first, let me applaud your fans of the year for showing up at the season opener as 50% Chief Osceola, 50% Village People Indian, and 100% Ass Clown. I'm sure the Seminole Tribe of Florida pictured these two culturally sensitive all-stars like this when they signed off on the continued use of the names. But Dan Snyder approves. Now, thanks to Chief Sitting Fool and his companion mocked at the water cooler, you Knowles should officially tone down the Gators wear jean shorts talk. Here's another thing we're done talking about. A Gator blocked a Gator 2 seasons ago, and all you Knowles were like, oh, that could never happen to a respectable program. Like, what? You mean to tell me that this can happen to a defending national champion in the first ever college football playoff game? Oh, it can! And it was glorious. It wasn't even the best play. This was. This was the best play of the Florida football season, nay, the entire Muschamp era, and the Gators weren't even in it. We could put Armand Grossman on stilts in the middle of an ice rink and tell him to give us his best Garo Yepremian heave, and even that wouldn't have been as dumb as that football play. Benny Hill music was created for this. But that was all last year, so let's talk about this season for a bit. So, hitting women in the face has been a bit of a sore subject this offseason. Who knew stealing crab legs was such a gateway crime? Even Bill Cosby thinks you're fucking assholes. And finally, I was gonna give you my interpretation of Jimbo Fisher's Wizard of Oz motivational speech, whatever the hell that was, but I'm not. Sometimes a windfall comes to you immediately before the roast and you go for it. So instead, you get this. Miami Hurricane football players just this past Monday won the off-season with their team photo sessions. Just look at this artistic Hog Molly's Go Awkward Family photo set. Nothing says we're ready to win our first ACC Coastal title like poses such as shushing center, the lineman daydream, the two loving bookends, or the famous off-frame hugging games. Miami, you may not start the season in the AP Top 25 poll, but there's no question you sit atop any rankings that factor in cuddles and homoeroticism. Thank you all.
Awesome job, Andy, as always. Really bringing it. Okay, we are at the end, and we want to keep this thing moving. We want to get to the auction winners. The raffle